You open an app. You see a jacket. You tap once. You tap twice. It's yours. It took 4 seconds. It felt like nothing. And that nothing, that's a problem your brain hasn't even noticed yet. Because spending money used to hurt. Literally. Physically. You'd pull out a wallet, count the bills, watch them leave your hand, and a tiny jolt of discomfort would fire somewhere deep in your prefrontal cortex. Psychologists call this the pain of paying. And for most of human history, it was the only thing standing between you and a very empty bank account. So what happened? The short answer? The pain got deleted. Not reduced, not softened, deleted. Over the last 2 decades, payment technology has systematically dismantled every barrier between wanting something and having it. The wallet disappeared. The bills disappeared. The pause disappeared. And with it, the only brake your brain had on spending. You didn't notice because the change was incremental. One year you were writing checks, the next you were swiping plastic, then tapping plastic, then tapping a phone, then tapping nothing because your card details were already saved and the buy button was already waiting and the whole transaction happened between one breath and the next. But your brain noticed, or rather, your brain's pain detection system noticed something was missing. Let me take you back to the science, because what happened here is stranger than you think. In the late 1990s, a team of researchers led by Drazen Prelec and George Lowenstein at Carnegie Mellon ran an experiment that changed how economists think about spending. They put people in fMRI scanners and showed them products with prices. Then they asked, would you buy this? When participants decided to purchase something, a specific region of the brain lit up. Not with pleasure, with pain. The insula, the same region that activates during physical discomfort, fired when people parted with money. Paying, it turns out, hurts in a neurologically measurable way. It's not a metaphor. Your brain encodes spending as a small loss, and small losses trigger genuine distress. But here's where it gets fascinating. The pain wasn't the same for every payment method. When people paid with cash, the insula lit up bright and sharp. When they paid with a credit card, the signal was noticeably weaker. Same price, same purchase, different brain response. The physical act of handing over something tangible, paper bills, metal coins, amplified the pain. Abstractions softened it. Prelec and his colleagues called this the credit card premium, the extra amount people were willing to pay simply because the payment felt less real. You're not imagining it when you spend more freely with a card than with cash. Your brain is literally feeling less resistance. Fast forward to today, and the credit card looks like a medieval torture device compared to what we're dealing with now. Think about your last 10 purchases. How many of them involved any physical sensation at all? No wallet, no card, no typing in your address, it's autofilled. No typing in your card number, it's saved. No shipping hesitation, free delivery. No registration, you're already logged in. No pause between desire and acquisition strong enough to trip a neural alarm. Every one of those removals sounds like convenience, and it is. But every one of them also removes another layer of the pain of paying that your brain evolved to use as a spending brake. Dan Ariely, the behavioral economist at Duke and author of Predictably Irrational, ran a famous set of experiments on what he calls the invisible costs of frictionless payment. When the pain of paying disappears, he found, people don't just spend a little more. They spend in fundamentally different ways. They buy things they don't particularly want. They forget what they bought within hours. They lose track of the cumulative total. The spending becomes dissociated, unmoored from the actual experience of losing resources. And then there's what happened with buy now, pay later. BNPL took the logic of frictionless payment and extended it into the 4th dimension. You don't just remove the physical pain, you remove the temporal pain. You get the jacket now, you pay later, or even later, or split across 6 weeks in amounts so small they barely register as numbers. A behavioral scientist named Richard Thaler, who won a Nobel Prize for this kind of work, developed the concept of mental accounting. Your brain, Thaler showed, doesn't treat all money as equal. It puts money into mental buckets. Rent money, grocery money, fun money. And here's the trap. BNPL payments are so small and so spread out that your brain doesn't know which bucket to put them in. 4 payments of $37? That's not rent money. That's not grocery money. That's nothing money. It slides into a category your brain doesn't bother tracking. The result is what psychologists call the illusion of affordability. You're not evaluating whether you can afford the jacket. You're evaluating whether you can afford $37 this month. The brain answers, of course I can. But it's answering the wrong question, and the real cost is hiding in plain sight. A 2026 study from the American Psychological Association's Monitor magazine found something alarming. The researchers interviewed consumers about their BNPL usage and cross-referenced it with their actual financial health. The people who used BNPL most frequently were also the most likely to say they felt in control of their finances, even when their debt levels told the opposite story. The pain of paying had been so thoroughly removed that it had been replaced by something worse, the pleasure of acquiring. Because here's the deeper problem. When spending doesn't hurt, your brain doesn't just fail to stop you. It starts to enjoy the process. Shopping releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in anticipation and craving. When a purchase feels painful, that pain competes with the dopamine, and sometimes wins. You hesitate, you reconsider, you close the tab. But when the pain is gone, the dopamine has no opponent. The purchase becomes pure anticipation, pure almost having it. And the cycle tightens. You buy, you feel a brief spike of pleasure. The pleasure fades because the thing you bought is now a known quantity. Your brain has already moved on to the next unknown, the next possibility, the next tap. So you tap again. Not because you want the thing, because the tap itself has become the reward. This is not a spending problem. It's a neural architecture problem. The payment industry has engineered a system that your brain's pain of paying mechanism was never designed to handle. Evolution spent millions of years calibrating that mechanism for a world of physical exchange. Then we replaced it with a one-tap checkout in under 20 years. Your brain is fighting a war it was never trained for, and it's losing. The companies designing these systems know exactly what they're doing. Amazon patented one-click buying in 1999 and defended it aggressively in court for over a decade because they understood something the rest of the industry took years to catch up with. Every additional click between desire and purchase costs them money. Not just a little money, a lot of money. Each extra step is an exit point, a moment where the pain of paying might catch up with the consumer and kill the sale. So they removed the steps, all of them, and the entire industry followed. Now, here's the part nobody talks about. Your brain does not actually want to overspend. Your brain wants to keep you alive, and survival requires resources. The pain of paying evolved specifically to protect you from depleting resources you might need later. The mechanism is not broken. It's still there. It still works perfectly when you hand over a $50 bill and feel that small cringe deep in your chest. But you almost never hand over a $50 bill anymore. So what do? You can't rewind payment technology. You can't go back to cash in a world built on digital transactions. But you can reintroduce the pause that got deleted. Behavioral scientists have a term for this: cognitive friction. It's the deliberate reintroduction of a stopping moment, a speed bump between impulse and action, and it's remarkably effective. One approach: recouple your spending with physical awareness. Before you tap buy, make yourself say the price out loud, or write it down. The act of verbalizing or writing the number forces your brain to process the loss, to register the cost as real, not abstract. Studies from the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management found that simply tracking purchases by hand, not with an app, not with a dashboard, but with a pen on paper, reduced impulse spending by nearly 30% in controlled trials. Your brain needs the sensory feedback. It needs the friction. Another approach: reintroduce the time gap. The pain of paying is partly about the moment of transaction, but it's also about the gap between wanting and having. When that gap is zero, When the jacket arrives at your door tomorrow, your brain never has time to evaluate the decision. Many behavioral economists now recommend a 24-hour rule for any purchase above a certain threshold. Not because you'll always change your mind, because the gap itself reactivates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that thinks about the future, about trade-offs, about what else that money could do. And the most powerful approach? Use the payment method that hurts the most. Cash. Yes, it's inconvenient. That's the point. When researchers at MIT's Sloan School of Management compared spending patterns across payment methods, they found something striking. People who used cash for discretionary purchases spent significantly less than those who used cards, and they reported higher satisfaction with the things they did buy. The pain of paying didn't just reduce spending, it improved the quality of spending. Because when a purchase hurts a little, you only make it if you actually want the thing. Here's what all of this adds up to. Your brain is not weak. Your brain is not bad with money. Your brain is running ancient software on modern hardware. It evolved to handle physical coins in a world where purchases were rare, planned, and tangible. You're now asking it to navigate an environment where purchases are constant, invisible, and faster than the neural signal that's supposed to stop them. That's not a character flaw. That's a design mismatch of staggering proportions. The pain of paying is still inside your brain. It hasn't vanished. It's just been systematically bypassed by an industry that earns more when you feel less. Every time you tap that button, your insula still tries to fire, but the signal arrives too late, or too faint, or gets drowned out by the dopamine from the anticipation of the thing you just bought. The question isn't whether you're disciplined enough to spend wisely. The question is whether you can hear your own brain's warning signal through the noise. The 4 seconds it takes to buy a jacket online feel like nothing, and that's exactly what they were engineered to feel like. But somewhere deep in your prefrontal cortex, every single one of those seconds used to have a cost. A tiny one. A physical one. A cost measured in neural discomfort. You just stopped noticing it was there. The pain didn't disappear. You just lost the ability to feel it. And maybe, just maybe, feeling it again is the only thing that can bring it back.